Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you for joining. Inshallah, let's begin our session. Um, so today's class is on a very important topic, and essentially it's about gratefulness. And the hadith that we're going to study today is very special. So let's have a look at it. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. La yashkurullaha man la yashkurul nas. So la yashkurullah as in he is not grateful to Allah. Man la yashkurul nas, who is not grateful to the people. So whoever does not show gratitude, whoever does not appreciate the favors done upon them by people is also not thankful to Allah. He hasn't thanked Allah either. So there is a connection between being thankful to those around you with being thankful to Allah. And also what this hadith teaches us is that when you thank people, you're actually thanking Allah. So when you do not thank people, you're not thanking Allah for the blessings that He's given you. Now, the first concept before we get into the psychology behind greatness or the importance and outcome of gratefulness, let's understand what it means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created a connection between thanking people is like thanking Him, and not thanking people is like not thanking Him. So, what it means is that whatever anyone does for us, whatever it may be, that would yield us to say thank you to them. Be it somebody gives us, usually when do we thank people? If somebody gives us a gift, right? If somebody helps us out, if somebody feeds us, if someone gives us great advice. So these are multiple things where people help us, right? And that's when we thank them. So, what you need to understand is that whatever help you are getting in your life, whatever things are happening in your life that are making you feel grateful, they, even if you're not asking Allah to give that to you, they are all from Allah. So, for example, a good advice that you've got, it's actually by Allah. Allah has sent that advice to you, right? And the human that has given that advice to you is just an instrument, a tool of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fulfill His command or His action, what He wanted to do for you. So that is essentially a very important mindset that a Muslim should have, that whatever they have in their life is from Allah, right? It's not the human in front of you who can do something for you. If for example someone is not doing something for you, it's not the human himself, it's that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not chosen that person to be his the instrument of his amar, right? Amar is the command of Allah, the decree of Allah. So if there is an individual who's not doing something for you, that just means that Allah has not chosen that person to fulfill Allah's command for you, right? And similarly, if someone is doing something for you, then it is basically the larger understanding is that Allah is the one who's behind it. So, whatever good is happening in your life, whatever things are happening in your life that lead you to feel thankful, are actually being given to you by Allah. And that, if you think about it, really broadens the concept of shukr, the concept of thankfulness to Allah, because it means that we shouldn't just be thankful of things that Allah has given us that people usually associate with things that they have on their own. But we should also be thankful for every single good thing in our life, whether we get it from a person or we have it in ourselves. We should be grateful for all of it towards Allah as well. So if someone has given you a good advice, so if you're listing down the things you are grateful to Allah for, then it should also be the good food that your mother has given you to eat, or the good advice that your friend gave you, or a piece of knowledge that a professor shared with you. All of it is being channeled through humans, but it's coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there is a lot that we have in our life to be thankful to Allah for. And that is why it's in the Quran that Allah says that we do not thank Allah enough. And being thankful to Allah is something extremely important in Islam. That this is something that's oft repeated in the Quran and in Hadith, that we should be thankful to Allah for the bounties that He has given us. So that is number one. To understand, in order to be thankful to Allah, you need to understand the sheer amount of blessings that He's given you. Then only will you be able to thank Him, right? If you don't know what you're thanking for, how are you going to thank Him? So, if you are able to list 10 things in your day that you are thankful to Allah for, by understanding this hadith, that number of things increases. Because in your life, there must be a lot of other things that are good that you should be thanking people for. So it's sort of even the things that you thank people for, you thank them and you also thank Allah for the same things. And then there are some things that you don't have, people are not giving it to you. It's just Allah purely giving it to you. For example, your beauty is not something that people give you. Yes, maybe you could thank your parents for the genes and everything, but mainly you thank Allah for it. Or your ability to recite the Quran or to pray is something you thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for, not a human being necessarily. Sometimes it could be a person who woke you up for Fajr or something. So you thank them, but you also thank Allah for the same act. So it's like everything you do, whenever utterance of thankfulness comes out of your mouth, it is actually being directed to Allah. So that is the sheer amount of blessings that Allah gives us every day, which should be thanked for. But it's also very good in the sense that it's not easy for us, because Allah has also talked about it in the Quran that the human doesn't thank Allah enough. So it is actually not very much possible as well for us to list down every single thing happening to us in every single second to be, and then thank Allah, oh, thank you for this, thank you for that, thank you for this, and thank you for that. So this hadith also kind of protects us, and like not protect, but kind of gives us a little leeway or a little hack, and that is whenever someone does anything good to you, make sure to thank them. That sort of comes naturally to us, right? We do thank inadvertently people for whatever good they do. If you don't have the habit of doing that, then develop that habit. And the benefit of that is that that list of things that people do for you, for which you should thank Allah as well, automatically you have thanked Allah by thanking people. So it's sort of, for instance, if you had 100 things to thank Allah for, and out of those 100, 50 things are done by people, by thanking the people who did it for you, you're also thanking Allah. So, in a way, out of the 100 things, you've thanked for 50. So, that is another way of looking at the hadith and understanding how you should look at thanking people as an opportunity for any and every single thing. The smallest of things, you should thank people for it, because we should be thanking Allah for the smallest of things He does for us, right? We might think of those things as small, but they are not actually small, right? So, and there are certain things that people take for granted and they don't even thank Allah for it, but they are extremely important. For instance, the breath, the breathing that we are doing, or for instance, the oxygen in the air, or for instance, the ability to speak, the ability to see, the ability to comprehend. All of these things, people perhaps don't thank Allah for it, and their entire life goes by. But even those things that we take for granted, those things that we think are very small, all of it, Allah Ta'ala has blessed us, and we need to thank Allah for them. So it's a great blessing in itself from Allah that by thanking people for the good they do to us, we are sort of thanking Allah as well. So we're doing a part of the duty of thanking Allah by thanking people. So that is a great blessing from Allah Himself for that as well. So that we thank Allah for blessing us with this. Now let's get into why. Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has connected this thanking people with thanking Allah, right? And what exactly is the benefit of thanking, and what is the mindset of an individual who has a habit of thanking people, right? And essentially this habit of being grateful, of being thankful, what does this lead to? What's the psychology behind it? So a few key points is that number one, gratitude is considered a core positive emotion, right? Like resentment, anger. So emotions are categorized into positive and neutral or negative emotions. And then there are cores of those emotions. So amongst the positive emotions, gratitude is a core positive emotion. And having gratitude for something actually enhances the experience of receiving that thing. So, for example, if somebody gives you food, there's one option, you just eat it and you don't say anything. On the other hand, if you really express thank for it, the experience of that, of having that food, will also enhance for you. Why? Because when you start praising, you're going to find things to praise about, and then hence you will be able to identify things praiseworthy. For example, somebody has served you a plate of biryani and you are saying it's delicious, and then you want to be very grateful to that person. So you're gonna go ahead and you're like, I love the balance of spices in it. The chicken is well cooked and the rice is just really nice. It's to my liking. And then you start thanking them specifically, and that will also enhance your experience of having that food, because then you will be mindful of what you're consuming, and that will sort of enhance the joy of eating that biryani, other than if you would have just taken bites and completed your meal and not have thanked the person. So gratitude actually amplifies the positive feelings associated to that action. That is a one thing about the benefit of gratitude. Second, if you look at the chemistry of the brain, when you express gratitude, the brain releases dopamine and serotonin, right? And these emotions, these hormones that are released, are connected to pleasure and happiness. So gratitude also leads to a positive mood. So, for example, if somebody is feeling down and sad and someone does something good for them, like for instance in my case, whenever I'm feeling a bit down, I like to have some ice cream. So if my husband gets me a tub of ice cream, and I feel really happy, and I express my gratitude, and that makes me feel good, because that expression of gratitude releases dopamine and serotonin in the body, which leads to pleasure and happiness. That adds to that positive feeling, right? So not only do you get to experience that positive feeling in an amplified manner because you've been thankful, because you're expressing your gratitude, but because of the brain chemistry, it adds even more to the result of that action, right? So that is another really interesting thing. There is another very good element that has been studied through research about when people are grateful and they are expressing gratitude for something that another person has done for them, in terms of brain chemistry, is that or sorry, body chemistry, is that this action of being grateful and when people are expressing gratitude leads to the regulation of cortisol levels. So cortisol is basically connected to your stress, and if it's balanced, that leads to reduction of anxiety and improvement in your stress management. So that is another really good outcome that comes out of it, that you're able to regulate your cortisol levels. That leads to reduced anxiety and reduced stress, right? So that is another really beneficial element of being grateful. And what this makes me feel is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He's created the humans, right? He is the Rabb, He is the one who created us. So you will see that certain injunctions of Islam, when those elements are studied through science, the human body is studied, you will see that it's not just that hame akhirat mein we're gonna get rewards for following the hadith, or we're gonna get rewards for being a shukar guzar person, but it's also going to be very good for our life in earth. If you just think about it, the release of serotonin, dopamine, and the regulation of cortisol, these are all related to this dunya, and it's related to your human physical, mental health, well-being, right? And you being able to um, feel happy, be in a good mood, get reduced stress, be able to manage your stress and reduce your anxiety. These four things are actually really good for you in terms of your physical self in this world. So it's not just being thankful is not just going to help you in the akhirah, but it's also going to be really good for you in terms of your body chemistry in this dunya, right? So that is another really beautiful thing about Islam, that whatever injunctions that are given to us are actually really beautifully fit with the human body and the human mind as well. For instance, the salah that we have, and we have the sunnahs and the muqaddas. So the body's requirement of physical activity is fulfilled when you do all your sunnahs and the sunnah muqadda for every prayer, right? So it's just a very beautiful rabt, a beautiful connection between the injunctions of Islam and your physical and mental well-being. It's not just about your akhirah; it's also about your health and well-being in your current self and life. Then there are a lot of other things that the gratitude does, the psychology behind gratitude. It leads to fostering stronger social connections that also improves mental well being. So it also creates a sense of belonging, and that makes people feel positive emotions. So, for example, if someone enters a new neighborhood and another person brings a home warming gift for them, and they are extremely thankful to that person, the person who brought the gift is going to feel a sense of connection, and they might, next time they see you, they're going to wave and smile, and maybe over time you're going to get a really positive relationship with all the people in your neighborhood, and that would sort of make you feel at home in a place where you might have felt like a stranger, and might have felt all those emotions of being detached from your you know your roots or whatever, right? So that is another thing, a beautiful thing about gratitude. Then it also helps you have a very positive outlook in life, because if a person practices being grateful, they are then able to see the good in their life, right? And because they're always trying to look for good, and that really helps you build resilience, right? And that enables you to cope better in face of adversity and challenges, because you have a positive outlook. You have an outlook that's looking for things to be grateful for every day, and that leads to really smooth and really pursukoon and full of peace life, because you, instead of focusing on the bad that's happening to you or getting into a victim mindset, you are actually more focused on the good that's happening to you. So you feel that you're living a very good life, that you're living a very peaceful, a happy life, and that leads to you feeling good about yourself and your state, right? Instead, if you're always focusing, oh, I did not get into that school, or I did not get into that, I did not pass that interview, XYZ, if you're focusing on that, then that will eventually make your life outlook very sad, and you would feel that I'm not living a good life, I don't have anything good happening for me, and that will make you go and spiral into a sense of depression. However, on the other hand, if you're looking for good in your life all the time, then that will actually lead you into um, uh, experiencing better and positive things. You'll have a more positive outlook, and then you're going to have a happier life. So, that is another really beautiful aspect of being grateful, that it gives you a positive outlook towards life and makes you an individual who appreciates the positive experiences that they are going through in their present life, right? Then, the second thing about gratitude is that before we get into the gratitude activity and studying the 4 A's of gratitude, let's just also look at the broaden and build theory. So, this is what I was talking about how the more gratitude you have, you broaden your um, way of looking at life. And that leads you to be able to see more positive aspects in your life. And that actually kind of manifests even more positive things, right? How? For example, if you are working in an environment in your office and you try to focus on the positives, so whoever is around you, they're going to feel that positivity, right? They're going to feel that, okay, this is a person that whenever something happens, he tries to look for the positive. And automatically, you won't be a very difficult person to deal with. You would be more friendly, and that might open more doors for you at workplace. Maybe people would be more interested in getting you on their team and maybe getting you work with them because they feel you as a more like an easier person to handle and deal with, and or maybe actually a good person to be around, and that would actually open doors towards more presentations or getting more work done or getting more recognition from your higher ups. So all of that. And even when you are grateful for things, people like to do those things for you more. So if, for instance, somebody gives you a gift and they see that you're super happy and grateful about it, they might be, next time they might be more likely to get you a gift, right? And same goes for anything else. For instance, there's a manager and he gives a particular project to you and he sees that you're really grateful about it. You're doing your best and you're trying to be as positive about it, even if he's criticizing you or even if he's trying to micromanage what you're supposed to do. You're trying to look at it the positive side of the picture. And he feels that it was a very easy process of getting you to do the project. And not only that, you were also extremely grateful to them for it, so they're more likely to award you the next project, right? So that would actually broaden your experience of life and expand your experience of life. Now let's have a look at the 4 A's of gratitude. What does it mean to basically, how do you express gratitude? So this was a little nice chart that I was able to see, I find. So the first thing, the first A of gratitude is acknowledgement. So people around you, first you need to start noticing the positive things that they do for you. And there might be some things that you're like, okay, you don't even think of those things as efforts or things that they're doing for you. But trust me, nobody has to do things for anyone, right? If anyone is choosing to do it, even if they're doing it for the past 20 years of their life, they are making a choice every single day to do that thing, right? So you were talking about the A's of gratitude. The first step to be a grateful person is to start noticing and acknowledging the positive efforts that people are making for you. Okay, so that's the first step. The second step is to appreciate. Now, then the first is to notice the positive things. Then you start appreciating the small and big things. So you start appreciating not just what people are doing for you, but generally everything around you, right? So the example that they've given is that the sunset is beautiful. I'm lucky to see it. Or things that are small or big things around you, like from the sky to the trees to the birds. You start being mindful of all these things around you. And you start thinking of how lucky you are to experience them. And then you'll start seeing yourself kind of connecting to the nature, and actually knowledge is going to be opened onto you, because you might think that appreciating a bird, that, oh, it's a beautiful bird, that's about it. No. When you start noticing things like that in your life, knowledge is going to open up to you from Allah. Because then a moment will come where you'll see the birds, and you're going to think of perhaps the first bit of knowledge that's going to open up to you is the beauty of the birds and how intricately Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has designed its it that it can fly, right? Then the second thing that you might start noticing is the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala feeds the bird. And you might start getting more and more knowledge about Allah and more appreciation about Allah through the act of noticing the birds around you. You might start noticing the way the birds move. You might sometimes and you'll get a step forward, and then maybe a time will come where you are able to think of the Quranic ayahs that mention birds, right? And then maybe a step forward will go, and you'll come across a hadith that talk about how different surahs are going to convert into birds, and they're going to come flying on the day of judgment to protect you, right? And then you might go a step forward, and you might come across the hadith of how the pure souls are going to be converted into birds, and they will be sent into paradise to fly and spend the rest of the time, the grave period in paradise as birds. So there's so much that you would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to start opening up to you, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to open up the knowledge of the Quran, of the Hadith, of Allah Himself onto you, because you start noticing and appreciating the small and the big things around you, right? The third for A of gratitude is affirmation. Now you should start communicating your thankfulness. It's not necessary that the thankfulness is just about a person who's done something for you, but just thankfulness, as I was saying, about all things. So start communicating, and then making people know that you are really grateful for their existence in your life, right? And this act is going to make you realize things that you take for granted. But when you're going to go and um, thank people for those things, you're going to see the relationships that you have with those people change. And the last is to start embodying gratitude. And the way to embody gratitude is to exhibit actions that is going to lead to the reciprocation of gratitude, that you are going to show gratitude through kindness, do good things to people, and embody the spirit of gratitude. The spirit of gratitude is positivity, right? So start spreading positivity. Sort of give back to the world, because the world has given to you. The world has given positive, happy, gratitude worthy things to you. Give back to the world. So that is how a person can work on attaining gratitude, right? So you notice, you think about things, you feel the emotions, you communicate those emotions, and you embody gratitude. That is how you can basically get the essence of gratitude. Lastly, the importance of gratitude to Allah is because once you think of an individual who embodies gratitude, that individual is a really positive individual in society. They have a positive outlook to the way things are happening. They treat people nicely, they're kind to people, they're grateful to people, they exhibit positivity that leads to people uh, feeling positive and warm emotions around them. So that creates social connections, social it creates social harmony, right? So such an individual is not only good for himself because he has a positive way of looking at society, so he is not depressed and sad and in anger and resentful all the time. He's also good to the people around him, and this such a person leads to actually a healthier and more harmonious society as whole. So if there is a neighborhood and there is a person who's really kind and grateful to people, people in the neighborhood are more likely to be good to them. And because of that fact that they're good to this one person, they might be start being good to others as well. For example, if there's an old lady and she's a very kind and grateful kind of an individual, and she's really positive, and this younger person who moves across her he helps her out in just weeding her garden whenever it gets overgrown, and he might start doing it for other older people as well, and that would actually create convert the society, that community, into a more harmonious and happier community. And that is essentially what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, right? One of the aspects of Sharia, one of the key components of Sharia is to maintain social cohesion in society. Fitna and fasad is something that goes against the essence of Sharia. Sharia wants social society and community to remain intact. It actually encourages social cohesion, and anything that leads to that is something that is encouraged in the Sharia. So being grateful, developing a grateful mindset actually leads to a plethora of positive things for the individual himself and also for the community that he is in, right? So that is why we should, at least bare minimum after this hadith, is that we should start noticing the things people do for us, the efforts people make. We should ensure that we thank them for those things, and we should try to embody gratitude by doing good things for people, right? So that is basically what I wanted to explain through this hadith. And inshallah, I hope it was beneficial. And if there are any questions, any points, any reflections, then please go ahead, or we could just call it a day. Okay, let's just make a small dua and end the session. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst the ones who are grateful and the ones who embody gratitude by being good and kind to people. May He enable us to gain the ability to see the good in our lives and to be thankful for the smallest and the most minutest of things. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala collect us amongst the ones who are the most grateful to Him on the day of judgment. And may He fulfill our life with a lot of blessings that we are able to be amongst the Shakireen on the day of judgment. Ameen, summa ameen, and walhamdulillah, wa akhiru dawana, walhamdulillah.